Back to Talos of Tech live on Twitch, and get yourselves ready for response videos because the Apple Sheep is about to go off on a subject he knows absolutely nothing about. And that means that there's going to be a whole lot of misinformation, inaccuracy, and poorly researched comments made throughout this live stream. You should expect that going into any Talos of Tech stream or video, but this one in particular, get ready, okay? Because I cannot emphasize enough, I know so very little about the situation. I am no developer. I am no Apple terms and conditions expert. I don't go into all the nitty-gritty details. In the first place, there's very little research I've done. This is mainly spitballing, as I called it on Twitter. The subject of that a lot of people have been talking about is Apple not allowing basically this xCloud game streaming service that Microsoft wants to push. And they wanted it to come to iOS, but Apple basically put their foot down and said, nope, it doesn't line up with our policies. Why am I talking about it? Because people want me to talk about it. And I want to hear what you guys have to think about it, because that's what live streams are good for, lifetime interaction. I can learn from you. You can learn from my opinion, because that's all I got going for me these days. But wow, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Chris Norton, welcome to Twitch. Hey, welcome yourself. Whoa, I think that's a first. Krista White subscribed at a tier 1 sub for 24 months on a 20-month streak. Holy crap. Because he's the king. I'm not the king. I'm just an expert of my own opinion. Also, Andrew Bill subbed with Twitch Prime for 15 months. I have an appointment at the Apple Store in 15 minutes. Should I get an Apple Pencil for my iPad Pro? If you're an artist, maybe. Outside of that, maybe not. Pizza Man 1653 sub with Twitch Prime for 4 months, currently on a 4-month streak. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So, here's the dilemma here. Okay, Apple essentially has said no to Microsoft, and I believe other companies as well, to allowing you to stream games to your iPad or your iPhone. And I think the reason they're saying no is it essentially kind of, maybe not directly, but it is kind of like allowing an alternative app store, because you are able to play games and buy in-app currencies or buy DLC from within these games, and you're technically using iOS, you're using the iPad, you're using the iPhone, and Apple's not really getting their 30% cut of that. And in a way, I know it's not running locally per se, but it's kind of like allowing an alternative app store. And for that reason, a lot of people are upset. I've seen the common comeback as, well, Apple doesn't have to approve every Netflix show or every Disney Plus show. You know, it's a streaming service. Why is the Microsoft or Steam or whoever else wants to do cloud gaming, why is that different from Netflix? I think it mainly has to do with the fact that you can buy things from within those apps. Whereas it's not the exact same thing. You know, Netflix you subscribe to once, but even through recurring subscription models on things like Netflix, if you sign up through the app, Apple gets a cut of that subscription. And yeah, you can buy things with Google Stadia. That's the other thing. So Apple wants to make sure they receive that cut, and they're probably looking at this as a way for people to bypass App Store guidelines. Well, if we allow cloud gaming, that means other companies outside of Microsoft or Google. So that in that sense, it allows people to kind of sidestep the App Store's guidelines or sidestep the App Store's rules. And I think Apple's trying really, really hard right now to not have double standards. I know there's a lot of us who are expecting Apple to meet some type of exclusive deal with Microsoft. They have to, yeah, you're renting Mulan soon. I'm curious to see. I think Apple will still get a cut of that if you rent Mulan through Disney Plus. I'm curious how they're going to handle that. But 25 bits from Pizza Man. Thank you very much. You are allowed to download Shadow on iOS and macOS. Okay, I don't know what that is, but I'm glad you're allowed to. Love you, even from my Note 10. Thank you, Mess000, for the Twitch Prime as well. Appreciate that. So Mike is saying Apple allows remote desktop apps, and you can buy things using that. I don't know if it's exactly the same, because it's not like buying... Maybe just because it's gaming, it's different. The purchase within apps thing isn't even the problem if the Stadia app is allowing it. Okay. I found that we have to review every game argument stupid. Maybe they can't They can it out. xCloud seems like a good cloud gaming product compared to Stadia. Shadow is a cloud gaming service. Gotcha. Okay, so I guess the running theory now is that I've seen brought up a lot that Apple basically doesn't want xCloud or Microsoft's version of game streaming because it competes with Apple Arcade. Is that it? Are they allowed to? I mean, are they basically? Apple allows Steam to stream games on iPad because they remove the ability to purchase games in the app. So it's like an in-game purchase difference. Game purchases were removed. So could they do something similar with Microsoft's xCloud? That's my next question. You found the review every game argument stupid. The truth is, getting up on the nitty-gritty details of what Apple allows and doesn't allow, I can understand right now they want to be very careful after the whole antitrust hearing they had with Congress, because they kind of gotten a lot of flack recently for basically they wanted Prime Video to be able to they wanted you to be able to rent things or sign up through Prime Video from the iOS app. So they cut a exclusive deal with Amazon. So they were treating Amazon differently, because they knew they were such a big platform and they had so much titles that they knew that revenue would be much better if they lowered the percentage cut off of the Prime Video subscription. So Apple's probably hesitant to get caught in a bunch of flack with allowing some kind of excuse, or they make some type of bypass for Microsoft because they're big enough. Then they're going to get accused of, big tech partnering with other big tech too much, or anti-competitive behavior and that kind of thing. If Apple Arcade isn't doing too well anyway, it's unlikely they'd want another service taking even more attention off Arcade. Personally, I don't necessarily see how they compete with each other. I feel like they're totally different markets in the first place. Yeah, Apple is digging a deeper hole with the antitrust investigation. Pizza Man donated 20 bits. Thank you very much. They said because they couldn't review every game. The thing is, Apple didn't tell Microsoft if it was because of the purchases. Well, I'm sure that discussion is going on internally, most likely. Yeah, I mean, the Apple Arcade thing doesn't make sense. It's not like they're pushing off Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu despite having TV Plus. And I mean, long term, they know that Apple Arcade is built mainly for the iPhones and iPads, whereas game streaming on xCloud is more for allowing your device to be a source to play with games via titles you already own on your previous existing Xbox. So it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't really compete with Arcade that much. They already have Stadia, and they also have Play Pass, which is practically like Arcade. Yeah, I feel like they coexist because Apple Arcade is mainly about exclusive titles. It's not just the sake of gaming is gaming. They just made them go through tvOS market because every app on tvOS only has a 15% cut. Oh, okay. Only official seller of the... Apple and Amazon also partnered up to have Apple be the only official seller of new Apple products on Amazon. Right. So there's more evidence of big tech working together. Well, I'm sure they work together on certain things. A little more open to X, etc., because this makes iPad less of a computer because of all the restrictions. Any opinions about Apple not including the charger? Yeah, we've done that. I've done that video. You got to go watch it. I'm not going to just repeat it because you haven't watched it. Those videos exist. Yes, I'm okay with Apple not having a charger in the box because you can just charge your phone the same way you're charging it now and reduce e-waste. So I think there must be some kind of small, insignificant holdup about buying games through the app or in-app purchases type thing that's keeping Apple from allowing it. And I could see it because it's such a big deal. And Microsoft still owns a big portion of Apple. I think they could come to some type of agreement where they let it on the App Store and they're just deciding it right now because Apple doesn't want to change their guidelines just for Microsoft, I feel like. They would get in more trouble with the antitrust committee type thing if they'd be like, hey, are you making exceptions for Microsoft and that kind of thing? And they're probably just telling them like, okay, here's two or three things you have to turn off for iOS um, that you don't have to for Android. So that'll be a little inconvenient, but for the most part, I think it will end up being possible on iOS because they need to come up with something. Um, Given the fact that everyone loses here. I mean, if they come to an agreement and then they let you play Xbox games over the cloud on the iOS platform, that makes more people with iOS happy. That makes people feel like, okay, I don't need to buy an Android because I can play my Xbox games from my iPad or from my iPhone. It allows iPhones and iPads to be better. And in that sense, I don't really feel like Apple wins here by not allowing it. Again, I want to emphasize I really don't see Apple Arcade as a competitor. They're completely different games, and the whole if that argument is being made, oh, it takes away subscriptions from Apple Arcade, then they should stop letting you have like paid normal games because that is an Apple Arcade competitor. The idea that you can download free games and not have to buy arcade and you could still have quality games that you can just buy outright, that doesn't that's just as much as an arcade competitor as Microsoft's gaming streaming is. I don't think it takes away from that. Because the whole premise with Apple Arcade is these are all exclusive games that you only get with this subscription. And that isn't really being taken away with Microsoft service. So Microsoft wants their games to be able to play on as many devices as possible. Apple, just like they allow Xbox controllers and PlayStation controllers to work with iOS devices, it's in their best interest that people are able to play their games with their hardware. That way they don't feel like they need to switch to Android or they need to switch away from iOS because they have the option to play those games with their iPhone. They allowed the xCloud beta, yeah. So it's not like an immediate shut the door at the idea. It does include Game Pass, which makes it worth it for a lot of people. Yeah, user base on iOS is huge. So Microsoft wants it. I think in the end Apple wants it. I don't think it's an arcade dilemma. Thank you, Kamal's back meow for the Twitch Prime. I'm not going to read that message, but thank you anyway. They should bring better games to Apple Arcade or make an arcade cloud service or something. Yeah, Arcade's not a cloud service thing, though. It's just a monthly subscription. All the games run locally. It's not really the same thing. Microsoft's just trying to bring the ability to play Xbox games on more platforms if you want. It isn't available on the Play Store yet. It really is only available on the Galaxy Store. Oh, really? They went through Galaxy? That's funny. Twitter and TikTok considered a merger? That'd be funny. Yeah, because Twitter's super secure. Just because of how insecure Twitter is, maybe it should go with TikTok. That makes sense. Man, TikTok is just bouncing around all these different companies right now, trying to figure out who's going to buy them out. I kind of want Microsoft to buy TikTok so that they go out of business. Microsoft typically buys things and tanks them, so... I mean, I'll pass the question back to you. My personal guess is that Apple is going to tell Microsoft to uncheck a few things, like not being able to buy certain in-app purchases or not being able to buy certain games or not being able to sign up directly through the app. They're going to tell them to turn off 2 or 3 things and then xCloud will work on iOS. And they're likely working with Microsoft directly to tell them exactly how to get through the App Store. But what do you think they're going to do? I want to hear from you guys. What's your prediction? Aiden5 says, do you think the Z Fold 2 will sell better than the original one or the same? Thank you for the 20 months of Twitch Prime. That's a long time. Thank you. I think it'll sell worse, frankly. I don't think that the smaller bezels is really going to convince anyone that didn't buy it last time. And I think that the Z Fold 2 is going to end up costing more than the Galaxy Fold 1, which in my opinion means that less people are going to see it as worth it because now you can't even get it for under $2,000. It's going to be like $2,100 or higher, and that's just going... Plus the pandemic, there's just less people in the market for that type of phone. Samsung doesn't sell great in the premium sector anyway. Apple kind of dominates the expensive $1,000 smartphone market. Samsung doesn't have much presence there, so them selling a $2,000 phone, that's probably going to be more expensive than the first. I don't think any of the Z Fold 2 changes are changing anyone's mind. I've yet to see someone who didn't like the first Galaxy Fold that's now seeing this one be like, okay, I'll buy that one. I wouldn't buy the first one, but now I'll buy that one. You're talking about Microsoft killing companies. Have you heard of Google? Yes, Google pays me every month. If Google bought TikTok, it would definitely tank, but I haven't heard that report happening. From the standpoint of Apple allowing the beta and the huge user base, I still have hope they'll be able to play it eventually. I do too. Almost anything Microsoft acquires dies a slow death, so TikTok will lose both ways. The one exception of Minecraft. Microsoft did buy Minecraft, and that really took off. So, when asked for comment, Apple told the press that our customers enjoy great apps and games from millions of developers, and gaming services can absolutely launch on the App Store as long as they follow the same set of guidelines applicable to all developers, including submitting games individually for review and appearing in charts and research. In addition to the App Store, developers can choose to reach all iPhone and iPad users over the web through Safari and other browsers on the App Store. So does this really come down to Apple not being able to review Xbox games? Like that's outside of their jurisdiction, so they're like, we're not going to allow it. Is that really what it comes down to? If they can work out a purchase agreement with limitations, I think it could go through. Apple's not going to buy Microsoft. Come on, be real. Let's see. If Apple acquired TikTok, that'd be a pretty good, from a privacy standpoint. That would be a complete 180. Going from worst privacy app in the country because it's used by China to spy on people, all the way over to Apple, which would probably make it one of the most secure social medias on the planet. That's essentially what they said. Microsoft is trying to milk Minecraft with microtransactions and spin-offs. I know they are, but I'm saying that didn't die. I know they're trying to milk it, but if we're arguing that Microsoft buys things and then they tank and die, Minecraft has been nothing but successful since then. TikTok could be a great platform for Twitch like clips. You know what? I've messed around with TikTok and I'm still not a huge fan of it. I'm kind of okay if it just dies off. People are acting like we're going to lose. It's not even been that active for that long. TikTok's been around in a popular sense for like a year, maybe 2 years. So losing it would not be that big a deal in my opinion. Something else will fill its place. Just like when Vine died, other things came up. Still doesn't make sense to allow Shadow then because they can't approve the games and etc. So yeah, that's the question then. Why is xCloud not allowed but Shadow is allowed? What's the double standard there? And I don't think it's arcade. I still don't follow that. Michael's going through the App Store guidelines and remote apps. So let's continue this debate with Mike. The UI appearing on the client does not resemble an iOS or App Store view, does not provide a store-like interface, or include the ability to browse, select, or purchase software not already owned or licensed by the user. For the sake of clarity, transactions taking place within mirrored software do not need to use in-app purchase, provided the transactions are processed on the host device. So is it the in-app purchases, or is it reviewing the games? I imagine there's a little bit of both in there. Yeah, but games are not the same medium as Netflix, and movies are not the same as a game. I think that's the difference. Like, I know Disney Plus is about to allow people to buy Mulan through the service. I'm curious to see how they handle that, but it's not the same thing with games as movies. Let's see. How powerful is my iMac Pro? Can you play 8K 60 HDR YouTube video at 2x? I don't know about 2x, but I can do 8K at 60, yeah. I like how that's your measurement of power for a computer. TikTok makes portrait video more widespread. That's why I don't like. That's a good. Yeah, Netflix isn't like an app store. Netflix doesn't give you a selection of games to buy or have in-app purchases. It's just like you subscribe to it, and then there's all the content. Shadow gives you full control over an external computer that's not in the same city as you, so again, they're being hypocritical by saying transactions must be on host device. Interesting. It does seem like a double standard at that point then. which is why I'm saying that I really honestly feel like, because Apple is not super anti Microsoft. Like, even at the last Apple event, they showcased how Microsoft is optimizing their apps for Apple Silicon with Microsoft Office and that kind of thing. And that directly competes with, Apple's software. And they've had Microsoft come out on stage multiple times to showcase software on their hardware. It's not like the companies are super angry and mad at each other. I think they've coexisted pretty well for the past few years, which is why my theory is that, yeah, they got iPhones in Microsoft stores. My theory is that there's some type of small change that they need to make to xCloud that's different on all these other streaming services. Apple really doesn't want gamers to touch their devices. But they have a huge gaming community on the App Store, though. Let's see. I don't use TikTok, so you don't ask me TikTok questions about high definition video. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Ben Kend, subscribe with Twitch Prime, said Instagram's Reels seems to be taking off. It will probably end up taking over TikTok. TikTok, if it does get banned in the U.S. At this point, it feels like TikTok won't get banned. It sounds like they're going to be bought out before banned. But yeah, Instagram has proven to be fairly successful with copying and replicating other companies' features and using them themselves. I don't know. I feel like Reels is still way too early to tell if it's being taken off. I mean, Instagram is pushing Reels really hard, but I don't know if that means it's taken off. Like IGTV, when it first launched, felt like it was the next thing and everyone was switching to it. But then within a couple of months, no one was doing it. So it's not exactly the same thing. You want xCloud on the Mac so bad, maybe because it will take sale from Apple Arcade? Again, I don't think it will, because the games are totally separate. Apple's whole pitch, the whole reason they're trying to sell you on Apple Arcade, is that the games don't have ads, there's no in-app purchases, and the games on Apple Arcade can only be found there. They can't be found anywhere else. So it's really not a competitor to xCloud in that way, because xCloud is a completely different library of games. It's cloud gaming. Arcade is not cloud gaming. Arcade is games running locally. So I don't see that as being a good reason. Apple Arcade isn't performing well as it is, and I don't think xCloud on the App Store would change that. It's just allowing people to play Xbox games from where they want. Bill Gates said that Microsoft acquiring TikTok would be poisonous in an interview. Well, he doesn't work at Microsoft anymore. It's not really up to him. He also drives a Porsche Taycan, so I can't necessarily say he's got the best taste. But would you really ask Bill Gates about what should be done about TikTok? He doesn't seem the kind of guy that would care about that type of thing. But thank you for the bits. Very complex. Instagram could kill TikTok like Snapchat. Yeah, I remember when Instagram stole Instagram stole Stories, which was kind of a Snapchat thing and made it popular. Apple Arcade games can be on other platforms. The exclusivity is only for mobile platforms. I guess so. Maybe either Apple will make their own gaming service with their own controller as a bundle, or they will partner with Sony. Probably not, but I don't see them partnering with Sony, to be honest. Do you think Apple Silicon will make more Mac apps come to the iPad, since it'll be really easy to port them because of the same architecture? I thought that would be the case, but they didn't really talk about it at the last event, so now I feel like it's not the case, because I feel like the iPad hardware might be more limiting than we think. If the dev kit they're sending out for developers to experiment on has 16 gigs of RAM, no iPad has anywhere close to that amount of RAM. So maybe if they wanted to do Final Cut or Logic or Xcode on the iPad, it would need to have quite a big RAM boost, or I don't know, some kind of boost, because Apple Silicon, we know the CPU and GPUs are really powerful, but when it comes to what they allow in the iPad, they didn't really talk much about bringing more Mac apps to the iPad. So yeah, I think RAM could be the bottleneck. Let's see. The guidelines say a remote desktop service is not allowed to be a thin client, and game streaming only streams the games. But Shadow gives you access to the whole PC and not just the library. Huh. It's not allowed to be a thin client. So is it because... So because is Shadow being seen as more as like a desktop remote viewer and less so an alternative app store? Yeah, Photoshop on iPad had to deal with a lot of RAM limitations. Maybe that's what we should expect on the next iPads. The next iPad Pro getting a big RAM boost or something like that. Um, because the passcode can always be hacked anyway. Yeah, but a passcode is harder to hack. Biometrics are more so for convenience. You don't want to type in a 4-digit code every time. What Apple realized what Apple realized with biometrics and security was that even if they had a passcode on the iPhone, most people wouldn't have one because it was so inconvenient to type in that code every time, which is why they started implementing biometrics because it made people easy to lock their phone. Before that, a lot of people just would not have a passcode. They would just leave their phone unlocked all the time before Touch ID was a thing. Did you manage to watch the live podcast from yesterday yet? Yes, I did. It was very fun, and it was very bizarre for the first time ever to watch and listen to the Tailosive podcast without me. That was weird. But I like Nick and Randy. I think they get it. I think they did a good job. I like the subjects they covered. I listened to both the podcasts, Tech and EV, this morning, and I'm like, dang, they can do it without me. But we'll be back. We'll be back, all of us together via FaceTime. You have to look at your iPhone as a password. Easy. Yeah, I mean, you can do the 4-digit hack, but it's pretty difficult, to be honest, because Apple gives you like a limited number of tries in the first place. So yeah, you can still bypass everything through the 4 or 6-digit code, whatever you want to make it. But biometrics are all about just making it easy to unlock the phone. And the point is, yes, Touch ID and Face ID are much harder to hack than the 4-digit code because you're trying to make the argument that these forms of security are better than the 4-digit passcode, so you can feel comfortable using them or using them for banking apps and that kind of thing. Android users, when they have to swipe 1,000 times in specific directions to unlock their phone. Yeah, I've seen those really intricate passcode unlock thing. Even though the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra has 12 gigs of RAM, Tab S7 has only 6. Yeah, I don't get that either. Is it just cheaper? Is that how they make it more affordable? Yeah, I know Apple encourages the 6-digit code. I still don't do it, though. That's why you have a 24-character alphanumeric password plus a biometric. Yeah, I won't go that far. Sorry, I don't go that far with the passcodes. Why hasn't Apple made third-party watch faces on Apple Watch? Think of all the possibilities. I'm not exactly sure either. People have wanted that for a long time, but the reason I think people haven't been that mad about it is because Apple's watch faces are so customizable anyway. There's so many different options and there's so many different customizations you can go through. Yeah, they kind of let third parties set their own watch faces through watchOS, and then you can share those. So it's kind of like having a third-party watch face, but no, I don't want to talk about the Pixel Fold. I'm so sick of that already. I don't want to throw up again today. I want to get to the bottom because I'm no expert on this. I want to figure out why Apple is butting heads with xCloud if they're allowing other gaming streaming services like Shadow. Why does Shadow get permission and xCloud doesn't? Can you buy games through xCloud? That's an important factor for me that I should probably know about. App Store is an App Store thing. Do you know why YouTube thinks everything is copyright? Because I live streamed and they revoke live streaming on every time I try to stream. Some music maybe or some video you're showing must be owned by someone else. I have a feeling if they disabled buying games on the iOS app, it would be done. And AAA games. Let's see. You can't buy games from xCloud, but you can buy DLC for those games. So what if they turn that off? Do you think that would fix it? If they were just like, okay, you can't buy DLC within that game. Shadow is like Microsoft Remote Desktop. By default, Steam or Epic Games Store is not installed. Just make it only a viewer. You can't buy anything. but you can play the games. I feel like that would be a good middle ground. I mean, it's somewhat annoying that you can't buy the game through the app, but if that's all it takes to have access to one of the largest communities, and it's a huge market, the iOS App Store. Oh, good. Your dog really enjoys your streams. He's watching it next to me like the last time. Oh, good. I've been seeing all these dogs watching my videos lately. I don't know what it is. Be nice, Drew. Google is the only reason you are alive. As we stream on Twitch. And no, Google built a platform that people can make videos on, but that does not mean you have to like everything they do. You can make an iOS app and still be mad at the App Store. That's okay. And yes, you can give constructive criticism. You don't have to ask permission for that. My family's a bigger Apple sheep than you. My grandpa literally gold dipped his iPhone 5. Wow, you should post pictures of that. I want to see it. Exactly. Google bought YouTube. They didn't build YouTube. Google owns and maintains the site that I rely on most of my income from. But I could do this on other platforms as well. And I started making money, and a lot of my jobs were outside of YouTube in the first place. So I would not be dead if YouTube didn't exist. Yes, I have a Reddit page. We got Instagram, we got Twitter. Google, if anything, made it harder for a lot of us by demonetizing content, by copyright striking videos unrightfully, and allowing people to copyright strike videos that they shouldn't be allowed to, that do support fair use. If Google censored people on YouTube because they don't like what you say, that would be a publisher, not a platform. And I believe several times they have established that they are a platform. You can't get xCloud because not all of the games are on the App Store. Netflix has a bunch of movies and TV shows that aren't on iTunes. Yes, but you're subscribing to Netflix once. I think it's because they want to approve the games. They want to look through them, or they don't like the in-app purchases, because Netflix doesn't really do that. Anchor makes a $100 iPhone charger in 24 karat gold, and I almost bought it. Don't buy it. It's not worth it. Don't do that. Right. So I'm understanding that. You can't buy games through xCloud. To access it, you have to be a subscriber to Xbox Game Pass already. But that means, I think it's the in-app purchases that the holdup is. I think I agree with Dexus. It's the fact that you can buy and support developers directly through. Because if you start doing in-app purchases are okay, but not, you can't buy a game directly, but you can buy things within a game. I feel like games on Xbox could realize they can find their way into iOS app stores without Apple getting a percentage of the cut. I wouldn't say no. I can't agree. I don't see Netflix as being the exact same thing, because there's not like you're watching a show and all of a sudden they're like, do you want to finish this episode? Pay $3 to complete the series. It's not the exact same thing. It is. They have similarities because you are streaming content, but the fact that there's in-app purchases means that Netflix and xCloud are not the exact same thing. Apple says purchases need to be made clear that they are going through the external device and not iOS. xCloud doesn't make that clear. I could get behind that. I could understand that. If they just said, in order to buy this DLC or in order to buy this thing within the game, you have to go back to your Xbox or you have to go onto a desktop to complete the purchase. So pretty much you pay for xCloud, you have access for 100. You have access to 100 games for $20 a month. You can't buy any game because it's linked with Game Pass, but the games you can buy DLC, thus the individual games you could buy stuff. Got it. You can't buy DLC through xCloud app, as I understand. You have to do it from the website or an Xbox? That's not what I'm hearing. Would you play games on Apple TV 4K? I have an Apple TV 4K. I used to play Minecraft on it. Disney Plus could be $20 a month and people would still happily pay for it. Significantly less. I definitely wouldn't. Well, now we're getting conflicting sources. So Michael's saying that you can buy DLC, and Tamaliv is saying you can buy DLC through xCloud. Many Dinosaur is saying that you can't buy DLC through xCloud. Now, Thrizane is also saying you have to use the Xbox to buy DLC. Will you react to the September event? You didn't react to the Samsung event. Well, if you pay attention to the streams, you know that I can't show the live stream on my stream anymore because of how Twitch is cracking down on copyright. So I received a copyright strike for reacting to the last Apple event, and that strike won't expire. So what I can do is I can show my reaction, but I can't show the event on my screen, which means you'll have to watch it on another screen, which I understand a lot more people will probably put it on. A lot more people won't be interested in my reaction because they can't watch Apple's stream at the same time, but that's the best I can do because I can't show events on my Twitch anymore. If Apple is really blocking xCloud only because they can't review each game individually, that's honestly really stupid in my opinion. I'd have to agree, especially considering if there's no way that there can be in-app purchases and there's no way for a user to be tricked into spending money or that kind of thing. Maybe they're worried that there's going to be some type of like controversial or offensive game that's available through xCloud, and that allows and then people will start playing it on iOS because it's delayed the reacting without the actual event. Yeah, I know, that's the tricky part. If you just watched the Apple event and you watched me, it would not be synced up, so you would have to stop the Apple event for like 15 seconds to get it in sync, because there's about a 15-second delay between what's happening here and what you guys are seeing. So yeah, I'm not gonna. No, deleting the stream right after wouldn't help. They could copyright strike it like that, and strikes don't expire on Twitch, so it's not worth it. I won't be attempting that again because I've worked very hard to get Twitch partnership, and a lot of people support me through Twitch, which I appreciate. Yeah, if you do picture-in-picture, though, you can't have Twitch and the Apple event playing at the same time. Almost every COD campaign is controversial. See, that could be part of it. Like, do you think... Like, for instance, if there was some game that had some type of... You know, because I've seen Apple ban certain stuff on the App Store just for being... not, like, you know, for being hateful or something, or for being too edgy, or for being too, like, even too adult for, like, Apple's sake. With 5G, there wouldn't be a delay. Yeah, right. If only 5G existed. The only way you could get gigabit 5G is if you were sitting outside the cell tower's location. Why aren't emulators on the App Store? I can legit just download Dolphin and RetroArch straight from the Play Store, and they run great. I can even play Wii games. But we have ESRB. Shouldn't that be enough? Well, that's the thing is... I guess it's just for the sake of, like, Microsoft, I don't think has that many controversial or edgy or hateful games that they wouldn't be comfortable with. Microsoft probably, with xCloud and Game Pass, are pretty strict with what's allowed and what's not allowed, whether it be adult content or that kind of thing. So, emulators aren't on the App Store for legal reasons because it's a gray area Apple doesn't want to deal with. Yeah, they could get into liable cases there. I think of what a lot of it comes down to is I don't think Apple is in particular worried about Microsoft. They're worried about the double standard. Microsoft themselves with xCloud and Game Pass probably wouldn't hurt anything if Apple were to allow it. But if they start this slippery slope of allowing more and more services and more subscriptions you subscribe to elsewhere that allow you to play certain games from that service on their platform, they're worried that someone else might come up with something that will be out of their control. Yeah, the Mac is not the same thing as the iOS App Store. There's emulators on Mac, I know, but Mr. Unreversible subscribed with Twitch Prime and says, "Are you worried what is going on to FPT can happen to you too?" It actually can't. If you're not aware what happened with Front Page Tech, basically, John used two-factor authentication with SMS text, which basically means that someone can SIM swap you, meaning that someone can call your carrier, pretend to be you, get a new SIM, or activate old SIM with your phone number, and then hack in to your YouTube account, do whatever they want with it. I don't use two-factor authentication SMS, so I do use 2FA because it is more secure to use, but I use an authenticator app. I don't use SMS text, which means that I can't be SIM swapped. If some hacker tried to get a hold of my phone and activate my SIM on their device, they wouldn't have access to my YouTube account. So they could try to SIM swap me, but they couldn't get much out of it other than just, again, my phone number, because that's pretty much the only thing it unlocks. No, I'm not the coding type. Not at all. But I'm just saying what happened to John in the exact way. I mean, if there's some backdoor exploit to YouTube channels we don't know about that another hacker could access, sure, I wouldn't say it's impossible because YouTube and Google are not the most secure privacy-focused companies out there. The good news is I have several YouTube channels, so I can get around that. Also, I'm fairly active on multiple platforms. So if someone took down my YouTube channel, for one, I would have several other channels to work with. And also, I'm active on Twitter. I have Instagram. I have Twitch. My house is paid off. Our monthly expenses are very low. So I really wouldn't be in much trouble. What I'm trying to say is, if my whole YouTube channel got deleted, I wouldn't ask for donations. That wouldn't be my next. I wouldn't just start tweeting out my PayPal link right away because we'd be fine. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It would be annoying, but I'm not worried in particular. Very Complex says, "Do you use HomeKit? And if so, how many devices are on it?" I do, but not much. Thank you for the 100 bits. I have a few smart bulbs, and I think that's about it. I think like 2 or 3 smart bulbs. Not everything in the house is smart, but is each YouTube channel a separate Google account or under the same name? For a while they were under the same account, but now they're under different names too. So there's more. There's much more security involved, basically. Unless there's some type of backdoor Google, kind of like how Twitter got hacked through a backdoor exploit, which means that, Elon Musk in particular wasn't hacked. It was Twitter as a whole that was hacked. Unless that happened to YouTube, which if it did, I don't know why they would target me. If someone found some backdoor exploit to YouTube, I feel like they would hack big channels like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast or 5 Minute Crafts. They would go, if there was a backdoor exploit where they could access any YouTube channel they wanted, then I feel like then in that case they would go for the big channels. I don't know why they would go after Taylosoph Tech of all things. So if you don't have SMS 2FA, what happened to John at this point doesn't sound like could happen to you. Let's see. Can't you use one of those USB security keys? I could, but I don't need to. You said you just donated $1 and you didn't even notice my message. I'm sorry if it was through PayPal. Repeat it in here and I'll read it. I'm sorry if I didn't. It's not showing up for me. Need to change that. Do you think Cybertruck comes on Cyber Monday? No. That'd be funny though. xCloud is competition to Apple. Arcade isn't cloud gaming, but still can be hurt if xCloud is successful. I still don't see it because the whole idea of arcade is all those games are exclusive to that service. xCloud isn't offering you arcade games at a cheaper price. It's just other games. And again, they're allowing things like Shadow, which is another streaming service, and Steam streaming service, which also competes with Apple's games. So I don't see it as a competitor. In that case, any game is a competitor to Apple Arcade. Like, if the argument is, well, there are games on xCloud, so that makes it an arcade competitor, then they shouldn't allow any other game outside of Apple Arcade at that point? Because in that case, if you're a random app dev and you decide I'm going to make a fun, cool game people can play, and it's going to be free with ads or it's going to be 99 cents without ads, and you put it on the App Store, by your guys' logic, that's an arcade competitor. Because it's another game than arcade. So now there's a way someone can play a game and not subscribe to arcade. Like, I think that's too simple. Our Apple Arcade games aren't really exclusives. They're exclusive to that subscription. I know they're available on other platforms, but not without that $5 a month subscription is my point. Yeah, no. App can't spy on 2FA. For one, the codes are constantly changing and it's generated on device, so yeah, it's not the same thing. The problem is that xCloud is rated for everyone. That's what the Galaxy Store at least says, and xCloud has 18 plus games. Could that be the holdup? That's true. Whether Apple blocked xCloud for competition or not, it looks really bad for Apple, seeing how they just got out of a congressional hearing on tech companies hurting competition. Yeah, but I don't know if it's that simple either, because I think what Apple is probably trying to do is say, we're not going to change rules for different companies. You know, the antitrust committee got really mad at Apple for that Prime Video 15% cut thing, that contract. And that's two tech companies helping each other for the better of the consumer, right? They're trying to provide more options, so they make an exception for a big tech company. So Apple's probably trying to be very careful that they don't do that again. We're not making an exception for one big tech company. Let's see. I think xCloud could be seen as a competitor because there are some exclusives. You get access to similar amount of games at a monthly subscription, and you can play on all of your devices. They're not the same games, though. Again, with that logic, well, we have a game subscription, and this is another game subscription that we don't like. Then they would ban Netflix and Hulu, because that's a video streaming subscription, and TV Plus is their competing subscription. It doesn't make sense to me. Apple is well aware that you can have multiple subscriptions from different companies coexist. To me, it's too basic of an argument. There's not really much like... The idea, Apple's whole premise with Arcade is you make some quality games that you can only get with that subscription. xCloud doesn't take away from that because they're completely separate games. You can't get arcade games on xCloud. And if anything, it just gives people more motivation to switch to Android because they can't play their Xbox games on their phone. So they would rather use it on a different device. Let's see. Wonder what Tim Cook would say if the guy asked him why Apple doesn't innovate anymore. I don't know how you could argue they don't innovate now, but they did in the past. Because there's a whole bunch of new technologies they've come up with and mainstreamed since Steve Jobs has died. It's just that you don't see them every day. So when you go back and look at, Steve Jobs' Apple, it's very easy to remember the big innovations because they stand out. But it's not that easy to remember the incremental small upgrades that you're used to on the day-to-day basis. Let's see. It's for that reason Apple needs to rethink this. By not supporting xCloud, they're telling people to get Android phones instead. Yeah, I could get that, but again, if there's some type of exclusive thing that xCloud is doing that other stream services aren't, even if it's a very small detail, even if it's a very little thing, and Apple allows them to get away with it and doesn't allow other streaming subscription services to get away with it, they can get in a lot of trouble for that. So I think Apple's just trying to be overly cautious with, hey, we're not changing the rules for anyone. We're trying to keep it consistent. But you're right. I think we need a more specific answer. We need a more concrete reason. Why is xCloud banned and why is not? Because at the end of the day, I want it to be available. I'm not much of an Xbox user myself. I'm not going to subscribe to xCloud or use Game Pass or anything like that. But I still want it. I think it would be cool to be able to play your Xbox games on your iPhone or iPad. I have nothing against that. No, don't donate again. Just send the message. Just send what you're asking. I would literally delete all prank Fortnite and cancer channels. Yeah, if you could hack YouTube, you just delete all the cringy stuff. This saves us from 100 different platform apps like Origin, Steam, Blizzard. Let me see. Yeah, people forget that Steve Jobs personally chose Tim Cook to replace him. Yeah, Tim Cook is great. We know that. I think it will be available for Macs, though, when they make desktop mode, since GeForce Now and Stadia work on Macs. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Because you have donated twice, I'm going to take the time. Sorry, you're going to hear all the letters pressing. To open up the PayPal link, which gets used once a century, and try to find your donation. I'm going to try to find it. Let's see. Yes, I did see I have been following the Twitter giveaway situation with John. From what I've heard, that guy has still not received his iPhone, which kind of sucks. I don't know why it's taking so long. I feel bad for him, though. He was so excited. I remember because that guy's in our Discord, and he was like, "Hey, I won the giveaway." And I was like, "Cool, that's awesome." And it's been like over 2 months now, and he still hasn't got it or something. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know why it takes that long to send someone an iPhone. But there's other issues I think John has to worry about right now. Hopefully, it can be resolved soon. I've heard stories of PayPal and Cash App randomly steal money and not give it back. I've heard of that because PayPal has some of those like chargeback. Oh, great. Now it's saying my Flash. Ugh. I'm getting hacked already. Streamlabs. Why is this being so difficult? Do I need a dashboard? Oh my god. This is going to take forever. Oh, because of 2FA. So I'm hesitant to use either. Give me a second. I gotta use my authenticator code because I am oh so secure. Luckily, you can't see it. So, I'm sorry. I'm very grateful for your donation. Let me make that clear. I appreciate you donating. It's just difficult to have all these tabs open at the same time. I'm already trying to read the chat. And the reason I don't always have the PayPal things open is because people rarely do them. Okay. We're open. Donation history. Is it there? Much love, my man. Been a sub since before 100,000 subs. Thank you, Parshu. I thought it was going to be a question, but I appreciate the support nonetheless. Okay. We did all that logging in just so we could read that. He's very, very thankful. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, my password is 1234567. Very secure. Extra secure. Let's see. Who knows if it'll be able to get emulators and programming and everything. Every laptop I want somehow has a problem with it. There's always going to be one problem with every piece of hardware. You can't get around that. There is no perfect device. That's just a fact. What's the best thing Apple has made in 10 years? I'd say maybe the Apple Watch. That has saved lives. You can argue the Apple Watch is a much more important product than the iPod. The iPod, helped the music industry. It was really popular. But the Apple Watch legit has, saved people from dying. And that's not, a debate. That is, factual. It has detected heart irregularities and let people know when they need to go see the doctor. It has let people contact the authorities when they're in emergency situations. Countless examples. Apple Watch has helped people lose weight. It's helped people be more healthy. I've read several stories of people that were flipped in a car accident and they were pegged against the ground and they couldn't get up. And they were drove off the side of the road so no one could see them. And they couldn't reach their phone. So they were able to contact the police from their watch, couldn't have done that if they didn't have one. Or people that were, I read some person, gal that was a victim of a potential, like, she was in an abusive relationship, and her ex or whatever, like, broke into her apartment looking for her, and she had to, like, run into a closet and hide, and she contacted the police through her watch. So I know it may not seem like a major feature, but just the simple ability to contact the authorities or contact emergency services from your wrist, is a big help. Not to mention the ECG, all of the heart monitoring features. I'd call that innovative. Let's see. Apple Watch and AirPods are pretty big deal. Looks like Apple is updating all the smaller and less performant devices first. Oh, because Quo said that the 24-inch iMac will get a redesign in the first quarter 4 of this year. I want to believe him, but Quo has gotten a lot of things wrong with his timelines, which is why I'm still a little bit skeptical that they would do like the 24-inch iMac first and then the 32-inch one later. I don't know. Maybe it could happen. I can't envision them making just one iMac 24 inches first and that's it. They don't have another one to go along with it, and then they just have this giant Intel 27-inch iMac that's dated, and then they have this thin bezel 24. I don't know. Something doesn't seem right about that. Yeah. I don't have much use for LTE on the Apple Watch, but yeah, Quo gets products right. I believe that the redesigned iMac exists. I believe it's coming, and it'll have the iPad Pro design language. I just don't know if I believe it's coming in Q4. After 120 hertz, 5G, and notchless iPhone, what else is remaining to upgrade on iPhone? Not much. Just going to get thinner, better batteries, faster processors, better cameras, faster biometrics. That's why I'm making more content on EVs, is because I don't think that the smartphone world is going to be that interesting over the next 10 years. I think it's going to get very, very repetitive and boring. I just hope the new iMac will have inside no rounded corners. I don't think so. The Pro Display didn't have rounded corners. Was the iMac refresh necessary? Why didn't they release the new ARM iMac? Probably because they're not ready yet. Are desktops still popular? Didn't like laptops replace them? Yeah. Who needs the Mac Pro, right? Everyone who wanted that upgradable modular Mac Pro, just tell them to get a MacBook. It can do all the exact same things. No, there are plenty of people who use desktops. It is not a large portion of the market, but it does exist. If we're just going to talk about catering to what most of the market cares about, we wouldn't have iPhones with OLED displays, because the best-selling iPhones are the ones with liquid retina LCD screens. And that's not the point, though. Apple is allowed to make hardware for, you don't have to worry about battery degradation over time. You can get much better thermals and much better specs than a laptop for the price. So there's definitely a market for it, but I'm guessing that the Apple Silicon that's going in to the ARM iMac is probably just not ready yet. They also have contracts with Intel that they have to use certain processors at certain times. So yes, in that sense, the new iMac was probably fairly necessary. They had to get it out there because of their contracts with Intel. But most likely the last one, iMac Pro wins because of better thermals. Well, not always. There's some things the new iMac gets better. We talked about that in the last stream. iPhone or iMac, you can only keep one. Which do you pick? I'd pick the iPhone because I use that a lot more, and I can just buy a MacBook. Yeah. Samsung's going to release an under-screen camera. Apple is doomed. Right. Remember when your thumbnails were text, blue background, and image of thing? I do. I used to try to make my thumbnails super consistent with design scheme. Yeah, that didn't hold up. I got bored of it. Didn't look right. If you had the option, which would you choose for iPhone 13 Pro Max? AMOLED 120 Hz or Mini LED 120 Hz? Well, it's both 120 Hz. Why not just say AMOLED or Mini LED? I don't know. It's all the same crap to me. Whatever OLED dynamic range, I don't really care. Let's see. 90% accuracy, 30% precision. And then processor has 30% accuracy, 70% precision. That's good. Yeah. I'm excited to see an iPad Pro processor with the thermal design of the MacBook Air. I like the old I like the old Air, and it struggles to even trim a video. Oof. That's not good. Hey, Slack in the chat. How's it going? Apple Card Pro. Yeah, I'm excited. I would be interested in that. I want them to do a higher tier Apple Card. I wish they would. Yeah, anything with 120 hertz is good for me, to be honest. I would take an LCD iPhone if it had a 120 hertz screen. You guys know that? Have I talked about that before? I would give up OLED for 120 hertz because I have 120 hertz on the iPad and it's LCD and it looks great. I don't really care much about the inky dark blacks and the super dynamic range contrast rate. I don't really care that much about that kind of stuff. But I love the 120 hertz. Let's see. Xiaomi canceled the launch of the phone with the wrapped around screen because they couldn't mass produce it. Yeah, who would have thought? You can always get a lot of hype and attention if you just open up your R&D department and be like, hey, look what we're working on. Can I buy one? No. I bet if Apple did that, you'd all be amazed and you'd say Apple innovates all the time if we just looked at what was going on internally. But they don't show that because they can't sell it, so what would be the point? It'd just be flexing. What are your thoughts on the new Logitech mouse and keyboard designed for Mac? I haven't seen that. I don't know. I'm probably not... I'm just going to use the keyboard and mouse that come with my Mac anyway, so I'm not willing to... They work great. I like them. Let's see. Have you talked to MKBHD since the Green Room? On Twitter a few times, and there were a few live streams I talked to him on, yeah. Viper has had him on his channel a few times, and a couple of the times Marquez was on Viper's channel, I was also on the live stream. So I got to chat with him briefly. So, not like a sit-down interview, but I've emailed him a couple times, I think back in 2018, asking if he wanted to come back on the channel, and I never got a response from him. So he's just a busy guy, and collabs aren't really that interesting. People always act like they want to see more collabs, and then the videos always perform, they don't do great. When will you reappear on a Viper live stream? Whenever he asks me to. I don't invite myself on. I'm not like, Viper, I want to be on your show now. If he asks me, hey, you want to come on? I always say yes. I'm not a fan of mechanical keyboards, no. I've used them. I don't like the noise, and I don't care about travel. The travel doesn't make a difference to me. As someone who edits a lot, I've never found them that satisfying. The point of collabs, I think, is to cross-feed viewers between brands. It doesn't work that well. Speaking from experience. Speaking as someone who's been on channels with millions of subscribers and collabed with people with millions of subscribers and also been a full-time YouTuber for 3 years, collabs do not do very much. If your theory is that having me on your channel will increase your viewership substantially, it doesn't work. It's not how it works. The theory is that, oh man, if you can get that guy on your channel, he's going to blow up. That's because you're not an attractive 23-year-old Instagram model. Well, speak for yourself, Gokster. I think many people would say I'm a very attractive 23. I'll be 23 next year. So maybe if I become an Instagram model, and I find myself very attractive, for the record. That's a joke. I really don't. Sometimes I look in the mirror and just start crying. But you're right. If you collab with very attractive people, those videos specifically would get a lot of views, but not the rest of your content. When someone in TeamSpeak/Discord uses a mechanical keyboard to get an instant mute, yeah, I know. Especially with Discord, people who use mechanical keyboards, it's like, stop. Let's see. Mechanical for gaming is good. Maybe that's why I don't care. I don't do much gaming. Do you think portless iPhone will be the doom of Apple? No. Even if Apple does a portless iPhone, I'm sure it'll get a lot of negative feedback. A lot of people will be angry about it, but the people would still buy it. Apple would be fine. He do be looking fine with that Tailosive. Exactly. All you need is hundreds of hours of plastic surgery so you look unrecognizable from your past self and have a mental crisis. But free view. That's a good idea. You need a controversial video of bashing Android users or record and going into Apple headquarters or something to gain millions of views. I have controversial videos. And I've gotten a video with 1 million views. You're at 8 out of 10 where I live. Aww. Thank you, Parshu. I take that as a compliment. I think you intended it as a compliment. Around where I live, I'm about a 3 out of 10. That's being generous. What are your opinions on the S Pen getting the same latency as the Apple Pencil? I was never a complaint of mine. If you recall in my previous note reviews, I was never like, man, this S Pen is cool, but man, the latency is just bad. It's a non-issue. It's like, okay, cool. I still don't like taking notes or drawing on a phone. It's too small a screen. It's too small a canvas to really do any kind of legitimate writing on. And the latency was not an issue last time I used a note product. Everyone draws on a curved 6-inch phone. That's what I hate too, is the glass rounded off. It makes it really hard to write on. It's still a very, very small market of people that care about stylus. Be like Linus Tech Terps. I just said Linus Tech Terps. Be like Linus Tech Tips and plug your merch store every 3 seconds. Okay. Don't buy my merch. I'm going to unplug. I'm going to unplug my merch. Tell everyone not to buy it because it's not that good and I'm not that impressed with it. No one should buy my merch. Okay? Deal. I don't draw in my note. It's mainly for notes and work. What is the work? And also, what notes are you taking that can't just be written on a keyboard? Anytime I took notes with the Note, I realized it was much faster to just type it. I'm going to unplug. Even type on the keyboard with the S Pen like a total pleb. I've seen that happen too. Anyone I know with a Note phone always just forgets that they have a stylus. And then when you remind them about it, they take it out and just start like scrolling with it. They just use it as a finger substitute. I've yet to see someone who actually uses it for like, I need this for taking notes. Except, of course, you, YOLO Plop. I know you're always there. But again, you're like the one in the sea of 70 people here. Let's see. Linus says he uses it a lot. I don't believe him. Also, Linus is Linus. Can you do scribble and write in text fields on the Note? I'm sure you can, but if you can type, just type. It's so much faster to just press buttons for letters instead of writing it out. We made a keyboard for a reason, people. Humans made the keyboard because it was faster than writing by hand. I don't get it. I want to buy your merch, but the country is literally not even listed. Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Teespring. Don't worry. You're not missing out. The merch isn't that good. My friend has a Note 10 and for a second forgot what the S Pen was. Yes! I'm telling you. I know of like 2 people in my social circle that had Note phones, and I haven't seen them in years. Except Wyatt. Wyatt had a Note phone for a long time, and he like barely ever used the pen. There's a girl in my school who's 4'9" and has an iPhone 11 Pro Max. She looks like she's holding an iPad Pro. There you go. If you could talk to anyone for 1 hour about anything dead or alive, who would it be? Elon Musk. I have hopes that at some point in my life I'd be able to talk to him. I think that'd be cool. Anyway, I gotta get going. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate the bits, the donations, the Twitch primes. All very much appreciated and completely unnecessary. I hope you guys know that. I just enjoyed chatting with you. You don't have to donate or any of that. But I appreciate it nonetheless. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.